You know what they say about assumptions making an ass out of you and me? Well, apparently nobody told Commander Vex 9 of the Kaltharian Empire that little human proverb. Maybe if they had, we wouldn't be in this absolutely ridiculous situation right now. Let me back up a bit. My name is ZYN-4, and I'm what you might call a military intelligence analyst for the Kaltharian fleet. 3 rotations ago, I was sitting pretty in my climate-controlled data pod, analyzing threat assessments and sipping fermented algae juice. Life was good. Simple. Predictable. Then some bright spark in high command decided that a tiny human settlement on the backwater planet of Kepler 438b needed to be removed from existence. It's just a farming village. Commander Vex 9 had declared during the briefing, his 4 eyes gleaming with what I now recognize as dangerous overconfidence. 200 primitive humans, maybe 300 at most. We'll glass the entire area from orbit, file the paperwork, and be home for second meal. I should have known right then that we were walking into a cosmic joke of epic proportions. The village in question was called Millbrook. Yes, Millbrook. Not exactly a name that strikes fear into the hearts of galactic conquerors, is it? According to our scans, it housed exactly 237 humans, 17 domesticated quadrupeds they called cows, 43 smaller creatures known as chickens, and one really fat orange thing that just sat in windows all day. What our scans didn't pick up, apparently, was that Millbrook's residents weren't your average dirt farmers. Captain Thura 6 was the first to voice concerns. Sir, the settlement patterns seem unusual. Look at these defensive positions, they're not random. Defensive positions? Vex 9 had laughed, a sound like grinding metal that still haunts my sleep cycles. Thura, they're using wooden fences to keep livestock contained. Livestock. These creatures probably think advanced technology means a sharper stick. Oh, how wrong we were. How spectacularly, catastrophically wrong. The attack began at dawn, Kepler 438b time. 3 destroyer-class vessels, each carrying enough firepower to level a small moon. We descended through the atmosphere with all the subtlety of a meteor shower, weapons charging, targeting systems locked onto every structure in Millbrook. That's when things got interesting. Sir. Communications Officer Dex 12's voice cracked with panic. I'm reading massive energy signatures from the planet's surface. Multiple fusion reactors coming online. Impossible, Vex 9 snorted. Our intelligence reports show them using internal combustion engines and, what do they call it, electricity from burning fossil fuels. The first missile that hit our lead destroyer came from what our sensors had identified as a grain storage facility. A barn. A simple, rustic, completely innocent-looking barn that apparently housed a surface-to-air defense system that would make our best military engineers weep with envy. Evasive maneuvers. Vex 9 screamed as our shields flickered under the assault, but here's the thing about humans that we were about to learn the hard way, they don't just build things to look pretty. Every single structure in Millbrook served dual purposes. The farmhouse? Command center with military-grade communication arrays hidden in the attic. The chicken coop? Sensor array disguised as a place to house small feathered creatures. The water tower? Long-range artillery platform. Sir, I'm detecting movement in the fields, reported sensor technician JYX3, her voice barely steady. They're coming out of the ground. Underground bunkers. Dozens of them, concealed beneath crops of something called corn. And emerging from these bunkers weren't simple farmers carrying pitchforks and righteous anger. No, these humans were carrying weapons I'd never seen before, equipment that made our standard issue pulse rifles look like children's toys. How many are we looking at? Vex 9 demanded. I count, 2,000. No, wait, 3,000. Sir, they just keep coming. 237 humans, my mandible. There were enough people down there to populate a small city, and every single one of them looked like they could personally dismantle a Kaltharian battle cruiser with their bare hands and a stern expression. The woman who appeared to be their leader stepped into a clearing, looked directly up at our ships, and did something that still gives me nightmares. She smiled. Not a friendly smile. Not even a particularly unpleasant smile. It was the smile of someone who had been planning for this exact moment for years, and was about to enjoy herself immensely. Her name, we later learned, was Colonel Maya Stone. Former Earth Federation Special Forces, retired to Kepler 438b to enjoy the quiet life, after 30 years of what humans euphemistically call conflict resolution. The humans opened fire. Have you ever seen a Kaltharian destroyer shot down by a surface-based energy cannon that was disguised as a windmill? Because let me tell you, it's simultaneously impressive and deeply humiliating. Our port destroyer went down first, spinning through the atmosphere like a child's discarded toy before crashing into what turned out to be a carefully prepared landing zone filled with capture nets and electromagnetic dampeners. Status report. Vex 9 was now officially in full panic mode, which looked about as dignified as you'd expect from a being with 4 eyes and tentacles where most species keep their arms. Sir, the humans have deployed some kind of jamming technology. Our weapons targeting is offline. Communications with Fleet Command are down. And sir? Technician Kral 8 paused, checking his instruments. They're broadcasting music. Music? Something called Welcome to the Jungle. I believe it's meant to be motivational. Below us, the humans had formed organized battle formations with the efficiency of a military unit that had been training together for decades. Because, as it turned out, that's exactly what they were. Millbrook wasn't a farming village. It was a retirement community for human soldiers who had decided that rural life might be peaceful, but that didn't mean they had to be unprepared. Colonel Stone raised some kind of communication device and spoke directly to our ship. Her voice came through our speakers clear as crystal, despite all our electronic warfare countermeasures. Attention, Kaltharian vessels. This is Millbrook Defense Force. You have 30 seconds to power down your weapons and prepare for boarding. Failure to comply will result in the immediate confiscation of your ships, your freedom, and quite possibly your dignity. Vex 9 looked around the bridge with the expression of someone who had just realized they'd brought a butter knife to a nuclear war. Confiscation? Confiscation? We are the Kaltharian Empire. We have conquered 47 star systems. We don't get confiscated by farmers. Sir, I said quietly, reviewing the tactical data streaming across my console, I don't think they're actually farmers. The second destroyer exploded in a spectacular display of lights and debris. Not destroyed, mind you. Exploded in such a way that every single crew member would survive, but the ship would be completely inoperable. The humans had somehow developed precision weapons that could disable military vessels without killing the occupants. Which, when you think about it, is either remarkably humane or deeply terrifying, depending on your perspective. 15 seconds, Colonel Stone's voice announced cheerfully. Sir, what are your orders? Captain Thara 6 asked, though we all knew there was really only one choice left. Vex 9 closed all 4 eyes, deflated like a punctured atmospheric seal, and reached for the surrender beacon. Power down all weapons, he said quietly. Prepare for boarding. And that, my fellow beings, is how the mighty Kaltharian Empire got its collective rear end handed to it by a village of retired human soldiers who had apparently spent their golden years turning agricultural equipment into weapons of mass humiliation. Now, you might think that getting captured by humans would be the worst part of this whole debacle. Oh, sweet naive reader, you have no idea how wrong you are. Getting captured was just the appetizer in this 7-course meal of humiliation. The humans boarded our ship with the casual efficiency of pest control specialists dealing with a particularly stubborn infestation. Colonel Stone led the boarding party, flanked by a grizzled man they called Sergeant Rick Turner and a woman who introduced herself as Captain Lisa Park. They wore civilian clothes, for crying out loud. Flannel shirts and denim trousers, like they were heading to some kind of social gathering instead of conducting a military operation. Well, Colonel Stone said, surveying our bridge with the air of someone inspecting a new piece of farm equipment. Kaltharian Empire, huh? You boys sure picked the wrong retirement community to mess with. Commander Vex, 9 puffed himself up to his full height, which wasn't particularly impressive when surrounded by humans carrying weapons that looked like they could punch holes in reality itself. I demand to speak with your planetary government. This is an act of war against the Kaltharian Empire. Sergeant Turner chuckled, a sound like rocks tumbling down a mountain. Government? Son, we are the government now. Mayor Stone here got elected last spring by a landslide. Ran on a platform of improved infrastructure and aggressive defense policies. You mean to tell me, Vex 9's voice cracked with indignation, that your military commander is also your mayor? Multitasking, Colonel Stone replied with that terrifying smile again. We humans are good at it. Rick here runs the general store when he's not coordinating artillery strikes. Lisa manages the local school district and our communications network. Bob Stevens tends the livestock and handles our cyber warfare division. I felt something inside my thorax that might have been my soul leaving my body. Your cyber warfare division is run by a farmer? Retired NSA, Captain Park clarified helpfully. Bob figured if he could keep cattle in line, government networks would be a piece of cake. Turns out he was right. That's when the real nightmare began. Instead of executing us or throwing us into prison cells, the humans did something far worse. They made us guests. Now, I know what you're thinking, Colonel Stone announced as she led us off our own ship. You came here to destroy our home, so we should probably be pretty upset about that. And you're right. We are upset. But you know what we're even more upset about? Bad manners. Bad manners? Vex 9 repeated weakly. You didn't even introduce yourselves. Just showed up and started shooting. Where we come from, that's considered rude. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay here in Millbrook for a while as our guests, learn some proper etiquette, and then you're going to go back to your empire and explain why attacking human settlements is a very bad idea. They put us up in what they called the community center, a building that had apparently served as their backup command post during the attack. The accommodations were disturbingly comfortable. Clean beds, adequate food, even entertainment systems loaded with something called Earth movies. But here's where it gets truly diabolical, they treated us well. Genuinely, authentically well. Mrs. Dorothy White, who ran the local library and apparently doubled as an intelligence analyst, brought us books to read. I thought you might enjoy learning about human military history, she said sweetly, handing me a volume titled The Art of War. Sun Tzu was quite the strategist. I think you'll find it educational. The food was prepared by Chef Antonio Mills, whose day job involved running the settlement's hydroponic farms and whose night job, we discovered, had been developing biological weapons for the Earth Defense Force. His cooking was absolutely delicious, which made it even more terrifying. You like the stew? He asked during our 3rd day of captivity. It's an old family recipe. Completely harmless ingredients, of course. Though I suppose anything can be dangerous in the right concentrations, eh? The psychological warfare was subtle but relentless. Every human we met had been some kind of military specialist in their previous life. The woman who delivered our laundry had been a demolitions expert. The man who maintained the gardens was a former sniper. The elderly gentleman who taught children mathematics had once been responsible for planning orbital bombardments. How many of you are there? I finally asked Colonel Stone during one of our daily, cultural exchange sessions. In Millbrook? Oh, about 2,000 permanent residents. But word gets around, you know. We've got visitors coming in from settlements all over the system. Turns out lots of retired military folks are curious about the aliens who tried to glass their friend's hometown. 2,000 had become 5,000. Then 8,000. Then I stopped counting because the numbers were making me nauseous, but the real kicker came on our 7th day of captivity. Captain Park approached us with what appeared to be official documents. Good news, everyone. We've been in contact with your Kaltharian High Command. Vex 9 perked up for the first time since our capture. They're negotiating our release? Oh, better than that. They've officially ceded this entire star system to human control. Apparently, they were very impressed by our defensive capabilities and decided that trying to conquer us would be, what did they call it? Economically unfeasible. The documents were real. I checked them 17 times. The Kaltharian Empire, faced with reports of a human settlement that had casually swatted down 3 destroyers and captured their crews alive, had decided that discretion was the better part of valor. They'd signed over territorial rights to the entire Kepler 438 system and issued a formal apology for the unfortunate misunderstanding. But here's the really interesting part, Colonel Stone continued, pulling out another set of papers. Your empire has appointed Millbrook as the official diplomatic representative for all human Kaltharian relations. Which means, she paused for dramatic effect, still wearing that smile. We're now officially the human capital for your entire sector. Congratulations. You helped us get promoted from farming village to interstellar political center. I'm sure your superiors are very proud. Vex 9 made a sound like air escaping from a damaged seal. You mean, every single diplomatic meeting, every trade negotiation, every peace treaty between humans and Kaltharians will now go through Millbrook. Population 2000, now the most politically important settlement in this part of the galaxy. They released us the next day with a care package that included home-baked cookies, detailed maps of local tourist attractions, and a politely worded suggestion that any future Kaltharian military operations in human space might want to try using diplomacy first. As our rescue ship lifted off from the planet's surface, I looked down at Millbrook through the viewport. The humans had returned to their daily routines, tending crops, feeding livestock, maintaining their equipment. You'd never know that this peaceful farming community had just humiliated one of the galaxy's major military powers and accidentally become the center of interstellar politics. Sir? I asked Commander Vex 9, who had been staring at the floor for the past 3 hours. Yes, ZYN 4. What are we going to tell High Command about this? He looked up at me with all 4 eyes, and for the first time in days, he almost smiled. The truth. That we learned an important lesson about humans. Which is, never, ever assume that retirement means they've gotten soft. And that, my fellow beings, is how a simple farming village called Millbrook became the unofficial capital of human space, and why the Kaltharian Empire now sends fruit baskets instead of war fleets when they want to discuss territorial disputes. The humans kept the cookies recipe, though. Some secrets are too dangerous to share with the galaxy.